Hi there, I'm Ken Lammers, that's Kitty Cat, and this is Commonplace Catholic. Today we're going to talk about a number of Catholic churches I went to, other rites of Catholic churches that I went to a couple weeks back. And so, let's get to it.
Lord Jesus Christ.
युगान युग तेरा ही है.
Ilekroć bowiem sprawujemy pamiątkę ofiary Chrystusa,
Kweli ni vema na haki tukushukuru daima na popote, Bwana Baba mwema.
主の御体と御血になりますように。
Okay, so I live on the far western end of Virginia, and every year they make me drive to the far eastern end of Virginia for training, right? Training that goes from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then I'll take like Thursday and Friday off and make it into a bit of a vacation, right? So this year I started out on the Friday before. I went to a hockey game in Winston-Salem. Yes, there is a minor league hockey team in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And yes, it is just about as quick to drive through North Carolina to get to the other end of Virginia as it is to go through Virginia. So I went to Winston-Salem, watched a hockey game, and then I went off to the next day on Saturday. I went to Hampton, Virginia, right, which is again kind of the far eastern side of Virginia, and I went to St. Rose of Lima and the Korean Martyrs Church, right? Obviously, this is a merged church, right? Obviously. And, they do Korean services. I didn't go to a Korean service. I don't speak Korean, so, probably wouldn't have fit in too well if I did. But, it was an English service, Korean priest, Korean altar girls, but the majority of the crowd was, there was some folks up front looked like they were, old working class Polish or Irish or something folks, right? And there were African Americans there. It's a typical Catholic church. There's a sprinkle of this, sprinkle of that. There was a row of Catholic women, I hope they were Catholic, Korean women who looked like they were in business suits. There was another lady there was from the Far East, but I don't think she was Korean. I didn't stop and ask her. It's mass. So went to mass. It was interesting. The Korean priest, of course, had an accent, which made it even more interesting to try to follow. But I'm used to that. Anybody who's from the area of the world I'm in now has had any number of African priests, so you're used to trying to get through and figure out what's going on with the accent. So this, I didn't take a picture of the outside. That's on me. But there really wasn't much to the outside. It looked like your typical 1970s era architecture. I'm going to build a community center that also serves as a church type thing, right? And inside it was a fairly typical Catholic church. And then you look up at the front. Of course, there's a tabernacle, but on the left, I'm pretty sure that's St. Rose of Lima. And on the right, done a little research. I believe that to be St. Andrew Kim Taegon. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing the name in Korean. I mean, Andrew, I think I've got. But that is a fairly significant saint. There was a whole bunch of martyrs in Korea. It's really interesting to read about. But, you don't see that. Generally you go to a church, you see Mary, Joseph, St. Francis, something, maybe Patrick, something along those lines. And if it's really kind of out there, maybe Boniface or somebody else, right? Don't usually see this, and that was kind of cool to see. By the way, just to be clear here, I don't take pictures inside the church. This was a picture the church had put up itself, so I took it to use for this. But pictures from outside the churches are generally from me. Inside, it's from them. Because when I'm at church, I'm taking Mass. So on Sunday morning, I got up and I drove down to Virginia Beach and went to this church. And this is Our Lady of Perpetual Help, which is a Ruthenian Byzantine church. And I'm not sure. Ruthenian is like some Eastern European thing. It's Ruthenian Byzantine Catholic Church. Let me be clear there. Um, but they used a lot. They used Ukrainian in the mass more than I went to a Ukrainian Catholic church later. They used more Ukrainian in this mass than they did in that one. But you can see it's a fairly plain church outside. This apparently was originally built by Mennonites, right? And I am sure when they bought it from the Mennonites, it was a very plain inside and outside building. But of course, they being Byzantine, it changed to this in the actual church area. And you can see the wall there that separates the laity from the altar area. And the church probably would have sit 60 if you squeezed everybody in pretty tight. It was a small church, but it was really kind of nice, really pretty. The Byzantine churches always are. When I got there, the cantor, and I'm sure there's a Byzantine term other than that, but I'm going to call him cantor. Tells me, the little gates on the right and the left were open. He's like, that's open because of Pascha, Easter, and the middle one, the big one that swings open, that's always open for Mass. And the priest faces away from you and then does what he has to do, and he comes out and does some stuff for you too, with you too, but facing you, telling you some readings, homilies, that sort of thing. But the cantor told me that sometime during the Mass the two outer gates would close, and they did. I don't know exactly when or at what point, but they were closed. 15. The cantor talked to me. The priest talked to me. He walked out before Mass. I'm there about a half an hour early. He's like, "Hi, how are you doing?" And he had very clearly had a Ukrainian accent, and he's like, "How are you doing? Good to see you. Welcome here." And he talks to me for a little bit. The cantor talks to me for a little bit. And then another guy who was, the priest was in like a white robe and everything. A guy in a full black robe walks up to me, and he had the full beard and the whole 9 yards. And he starts talking to me. He's like, "Are you Catholic?" Yeah. He's like, "Okay, here's how we do Eucharist here. You can do Eucharist here. Every Catholic can." And he's like, you walk up, you will cross your arms like this, you will say your name, and you'll put your mouth back and hold it open, and the priest will take a spoon and take the bread and the wine and put it in your mouth, right, from that one spoon. He says, and it's a wooden spoon. It gets changed out for each person. Fine, cool. And he does that and goes back, and about 15 minutes before Mass is supposed to start, the cantor starts he just starts chanting, and there were parts of it where the priest joined in, but mainly for like 15 minutes, this guy goes, right? And, all of these prayers and everything. It's pretty impressive. And it's kind of a nice way to start everything. I'm sure it's an opening blessing is what it's meant to be. And most people didn't show up until the time of Mass, but he was 15 minutes early. He was there doing the chants. Went through the Mass. For a good portion of it, I mainly understood what was going on. Because they're Byzantine, do the top, bottom, right, left instead of left, right. And I doing this a little bit, I kind of screwing up with it, but that's fine. And go through it. Some of the prayers were different, but a lot of them were pretty close. Like I said, there were times that the priest was using Ukrainian, and the whole part where you try to cleanse yourself, be ready to take communion, they did a whole different thing than what you see in the Latin Mass, and I didn't know it, so I can't tell you what it was, but it was interesting to hear, right? Okay, so we go up, we do, I went up to take communion, and I go up, I do the thing, and they make very clear that you do not stick your tongue out, right? I didn't stick my tongue out. I forgot to tell him my name, so he's kind of stuck in it. It was fine. It all worked out great. The We'll say the priest went out of his way before and after and a little bit before we close to say we don't cross ourselves when we come up to take communion. You cross yourself when you're scared of something. You're not scared to take communion. You're sharing in the grace and love of Jesus and God, and you're not scared of that. So you don't cross yourself. Which, of course, we went up and did a St. Andrew's cross, but okay. But I didn't cross myself because he asked us not to. I did see several people do it who had obviously started out as Latin Catholics, Roman Catholics, however you're going to say it, and just did it out of instinct, right? Mass ends, and then everybody lines up again. You go up the front, and they don't come and take money from you while you're during Mass. What you do is afterwards, you go up to the front, you take, they got one basket there, and you throw some money into it, and then there's another, two kids holding these baskets, and the second kid is holding the basket with some bread. You take a little piece of bread, you go on, you eat it, and you go on, right? Everybody was really, really nice. The only time I got even a slightly bad vibe, the guy who I think is kind of a deacon who's wearing the black robe, he comes up to me after Mass and he goes, "Hey, we're having a breakfast and everything. You're welcome to stay." And I was like, "No, I got to go because I have to be at this training at a certain period of time, right?" And he frowned at that. Probably right. I mean, really working on Sundays is not a good thing, but I was going to work, and that was it. And when I left, they're nice people. Like I said, very nice people, nice place. If you are in Virginia Beach and you want to attend a different type of Catholic service, I recommend it. Our Lady of Perpetual Help, Ruthenian Byzantine Catholic Church. So then I go through the training Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Wednesday until noon, right? I leave and I drove directly to Raleigh, North Carolina. Now Raleigh, I was going there for a couple of different reasons, so I could go see some plays and that sort of thing. But on Wednesday night I get there and I went to the Maronite church. Right, I'd never been to a Maronite service before, and I screwed up and didn't take a picture of the whole church. But there was this nice Lebanese fir tree there, that cross right in the middle of their parking area and all that. It had an area that looked like a church hall, an area where the priest lived, I'm sure, and here's what it looked like on the inside. Again, this one could probably fit 70 to 100 people in it. There were probably 12 of us. Very helpful again beforehand. One lady tracks me down and goes, here's the prayer book. And she had marked where the service was going to start in it. It had little strips in it. She had marked where the service was going to start. And when it jumped to the Eucharist part, where it was going to be, and very nice, very kind of her to do that for me. And that was, the priest came out and the service was similar. It kind of felt he faced us. He wasn't facing backwards. It wasn't like a Byzantine church where parts were cut, where there's a wall or anything. And he did his entire Mass. Parts of the Mass were in Aramaic, which is impressive as all get out, right? Who speaks Aramaic anymore? It's kind of like Latin in the Latin church, right? But he does he does the whole Mass. I didn't go to communion because I wasn't sure how they did communion. And by the time I realized that they basically did communion the same way that Latin Mass does it, or very close enough that I figured out the 10 or 12 people in there had already gone through, and it was too late for me to get in line. And the priest is already going back. Fine. No problems. The only thing I did have some problems with is, I had the prayer book, and here it had English, and here it had Arabic, and here it would have Aramaic. Now, I don't speak Aramaic. I can't read Aramaic. At once upon a time, I was okay at Arabic, right? I'm not going to claim any great shakes, but I was okay at Arabic. And I'm sitting there trying to kind of read the Arabic and that, and they may have used Arabic. He may have used Arabic a couple times, not much, but I'm thinking, wait, that's not saying what the English says. That you it kind of get distracted that way. I shouldn't have let that happen. But we get through the whole mass, and we at the end, everything's done, and the priest just looks up from where he's standing there in that picture, looks over and goes, "I want to welcome you to our service. I hope you can come back some more sometime." And I was like, "Well, Father, I live 7 or 8 hours away. I don't think I really can do that." He's like, "Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you coming." And he had an accent, Lebanese, maybe. I'm not sure, but he had an accent, some sort of Arabic accent. We go outside. I ask him if he's called Father or Ab being father in Arabic, and he's like, "Well, they call me Abuna," which is our father, and he's yep. And we had a little bit of conversation. I had a little bit of conversation with another guy about the Barter Theater out here, of all things. And then I went on. Again, very nice people. Very welcoming. I recommend it to you, particularly if you really like to see, older languages in use and all that. It felt more, the Byzantine Catholic Church feels kind of more Orthodox, but it's still Catholic. This felt like it was kind of halfway Novo Ordo, right? But it was interesting. I recommend it. If you're in Raleigh, go to St. Sherbal's. That was the name of it, and check it out. It's worth checking out. So that was Wednesday, and then the next 3 nights I went and saw My Fair Lady, 1776. Oh, it was terrible. The songs were really good in 1776, but they clearly thought they were doing Hamilton. And then the Book of Will, which was okay, but that's part of the reason I was there, to go see plays, do things that I can't do where I live. So then, though, on Sunday morning, when I'm going to have to drive back eventually, I decide to go to I'm going to go to a Ukrainian Catholic church. This is just outside of Raleigh, and it is St. Sophia's Ukrainian Catholic Church. Very nice place, plenty of parking and a whole 9 yards. You can see there that they use the Ukrainian Catholic, cross, and it's very pretty on the outside, and just about as pretty on the inside. Actually more pretty on the inside. Same sort of thing. I think this place could sit like maybe 100, 120 if they really pushed. The whole place is made up really nice. It looks almost brand new. So I'm not sure how long ago they made this place, built it. Apparently it was a merger of 2 different churches. Ukrainian Catholic Church. Although I went to an English Mass, they did have a Ukrainian Mass later in the day. Much like the other church, there was cantors at the beginning before Mass started. They started chanting and everything. I did have some guy come up to me and go, "Hey, you're new here." He kind of, filled me in on a little bit of it, but I was, I just kind of watched. This was, for being a Ukrainian Catholic church, he didn't use that much Ukrainian in it. The priest put on a beautiful ceremony. Again, there's the barrier. The middle doors were open so that you could see the back of the priest as he was doing what he's doing. I will say here, this is different than what happened at the Ruthenian. Everybody that came in walked straight to that icon in the middle and kissed it, right? And there was a cross next to it, and someone would kiss that too. And that's how they came in. It wasn't, it seemed to fit about the same spot that in a Latin Catholic church where you walk in, you dip your hands in the holy water and cross yourself, right? Seemed to be about that same thing. The cantors started um, saying all the prayers and everything, 15, 20 minutes out. This time it was two ladies, and about 10 minutes in, 10, 15 minutes in, a gentleman walked in. He started helping too, started doing it too. I've got to say, I was impressed. One of these ladies, her kids were there, and they're running, and she's singing and trying to corral these kids at the same time, right? It was fun to watch, and it's pretty impressive. Here again, though, I didn't do communion here because I wasn't sure exactly how to do it, and really hadn't cleared it with the priest ahead of time. I didn't want to cause any issues, so I didn't do it here. I left pretty much immediately after Mass was done. I was just that strange guy sitting in the back, right, watching the Mass, and I did leave there to go. Specifically, I was headed to the next place, which was Sacred Heart Church in Dunn, North Carolina, which is about half an hour, 40 minutes south of where the Ukrainian Catholic Church was. Sacred Heart, looks like a fairly typical Catholic church, and inside, again, fairly typical, although more icons than you see in many of the more modern churches, although we do see more of the icons coming in. Latin Mass. Went to a Latin Mass. It was high Mass. Did the whole thing. Went up, took communion the way it should be done, kneeling at the altar rail and communion rail, however you want to call it, and it was very beautiful. Here's what I noticed, and you'll notice this too if you start going to these types of churches. Where do I see the young folks? This place was filled with people in their 20s, right? These were the young folks who were coming to the church. And, of course, there's one church, as best I can tell, in eastern North Carolina where you can go to Latin Mass. And it's not like, Dunn's not, it's not in the middle of the mountains or something, on top of a mountain. But it's not, like, incredibly easy to get to either, right? You have to make a purposeful choice to go there for the Latin Mass. And they did. The place was packed. At least 100, maybe like 125, 130, right? It was a full church. Very impressive. Very nice Mass. They had a choir, which had there was a loft for the choir, and they were singing very well. And it just was an impressive Mass. And that, of course, was how I ended the week. Like I said, I did go to communion here. Did take communion here. The way I was taught to take communion, where you go up, kneel at the altar rail, and you take communion. Very nice. And, of course, after that, I had to drive home. That was another 6 or 7 hours to get back. But it was worth it, right? It was worth it to go to each and every one of these. It was a very unique experience to go, church to church to church, to see what the differences and similarities were. And I'm going to do this again, kind of, in June, late June, early July, my actual vacation. You'll see that sometime, probably mid-July. I'll tell you about that one. And for now, that's it, folks. As I always say, there is no imprimatur here. This has not been approved by the lowliest hermit all the way up to the Pope himself. Nobody in between has approved this. And if you like it, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get something when I send them out. And until next time, well, peace be with all y'all.